A soft light blinked on Jonas's compad, waking him in the middle of the night. He rubbed his eyes and groaned, thinking it was just another system glitch. But when he opened the message, his breath caught in his throat. It was from Terrell. N.E. Alien world far away. A world he hadn't thought about in years. A world where he had once made a promise to a friend. The message was simple, short, and cold. Varric of House Coran is dead. You are summoned to attend his final rites. Jonas sat frozen. The name hit him hard. Varric had saved his life 5 years ago, back when Jonas had crash-landed on Terrell during a freelance mission. He had been stranded, hunted, and injured. Varric, an alien scientist, had taken him in, healed him, and given him shelter when no one else would. They had become close friends, brothers almost. But after Jonas had left Terrell, they lost touch. Life moved on. Jobs came and went. He never expected to hear from that planet again. And now, Varric was gone. Jonas packed his few belongings and boarded the next long-range transport. The journey took 2 days, filled with silence, memories, and questions. Why had Varric's people contacted him, a human outsider? Surely Varric had a family, a wife, a people of his own. Why was Jonas being called to his funeral? When he landed on Terrell, the sky was a deep violet, and strange floating creatures drifted lazily in the upper atmosphere. The air smelled of wet minerals and sweet herbs. The planet hadn't changed, but the people who came to meet him at the dock weren't friendly. They looked at him with cold, unreadable eyes. A tall man in ceremonial robes stepped forward. "You are Jonas," he said without emotion. "You will come now." They took him to a quiet hill overlooking a glowing lake. That's where the ceremony was already underway. Dozens of aliens in silver robes stood silently. A body wrapped in glowing silk floated gently on the water. Jonas kept his head down and said nothing. This wasn't his world. He didn't know their customs. All he knew was that Varric had been kind to him, and this was the last thing he could do to honor him. After the body was released into the water, the aliens turned to him. One by one, they bowed, and then the same robed man from before stepped forward again. "You are the heir," he said simply. Jonas blinked. "What?" he asked, not sure he'd heard right. "The last will of Varric has been read. You are the heir of House Coran. You now own everything that belonged to him, including his estate, his holdings, and his wife." Jonas's mouth fell open. Wait, what? His wife? That's when he saw her. A woman with pale violet skin and long silver hair stepped forward. Her eyes were large, glowing softly with sadness and strength. She wore a simple but elegant gown. Her posture was perfect, graceful, but there was a strange quietness in the way she walked, as if she carried something heavy inside her. "I am Lyra," she said softly. "I was Varric's wife. Now by Terrell law, I belong to you." Jonas stepped back. "That can't be right," he said. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't even know he had a wife." Lyra bowed her head. "Varric chose you. He trusted you more than anyone. This is our way. To refuse is to insult his spirit." The others nodded around them, their faces still unreadable. Jonas's heart pounded. What had he walked into? He came here to say goodbye to a friend, not inherit a fortune, a house, and a living, breathing person. Lyra looked up at him again. "I do not wish to be a burden, but I must stay with you now, until the bond is complete." He didn't understand what that meant, but the way she said it made him uneasy. Her voice was kind, respectful, but her eyes told a different story. They looked like they were hiding something, not fear of him, but fear for him. That night, they took him to Varric's old home, a large glass-like structure built into the hillside. It was beautiful, filled with strange humming devices, colorful lights, and walls that shifted like liquid metal. Jonas wandered through the rooms, amazed, confused, and overwhelmed. Lyra stayed, close, quiet, watching him as he explored. At dinner, she served him food without asking. She moved like someone used to being watched all the time. Jonas finally spoke. "Lyra, Did Varric know he was going to die? She paused. Yes. He had many enemies. He knew they were close. That sent a chill down Jonas's spine. Enemies? Why didn't he leave Tyrell then? Because he loved this place, Lyra whispered. And because he believed someone would finish what he started. He believed it would be you. Jonas looked at her, truly looked. Her words were gentle, but her eyes trembled. She was afraid of something or someone, and suddenly Jonas knew. Varric didn't just leave him wealth. He left him a mystery, a danger, and a woman who was either a gift or a warning. Jonas woke up early the next morning, but he didn't feel rested. The walls of the house shimmered quietly, changing colors with the sunlight. It was beautiful, peaceful, but something felt wrong, as if the house itself was hiding secrets just like the people outside. He stepped into the large hall and found Lyra standing by a window watching the sky. She looked calm, but her hands were clenched. He walked up beside her and asked gently, "You okay?" Lyra gave a small nod. "There is something I must explain." Jonas waited. "Trell customs are old," she said slowly. "When a male of status dies, his bondmate does not return to her family. She belongs to his chosen heir." Jonas frowned. "But that doesn't make sense. You're a person, not a thing to be passed on." Lyra looked down. "I agree. But to refuse the bond would mean you disrespect his last will, and the council would see that as dishonor. You could be punished, or even exiled from Tyrell." Jonas's stomach turned. "So I have no choice." "You can delay the bond," she whispered. "You can stay as a guest until you decide. But time is not on your side. Varric's enemies are watching. They do not want you here. They want what he protected." Jonas narrowed his eyes. "Protected? What do you mean?" She looked at him but didn't answer. Instead, she walked away, leaving only the soft scent of her perfume behind. Later that day, Jonas wandered the estate. It was massive, filled with machines he couldn't understand and rooms he had never seen before. A large door at the back was sealed shut, glowing red. He tried to open it, but the lock rejected him. "Access denied," a robotic voice said. He made a note to ask Lyra about it. As he walked back, he noticed something odd. Two figures in dark robes watching the house from the trees outside. When they saw him look their way, they vanished into the shadows. He rushed inside, locking the door. His heart was racing. "Lyra," he called. She appeared quickly, eyes wide. "What happened?" "I saw someone, two of them, watching the house. Are we being followed?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked to a small panel on the wall and pressed her hand to it. A metal plate slid open, revealing a hidden weapon, sleek, silver and glowing. "They've come sooner than I thought," she said quietly. "Who are they?" "Those who want to erase Varric's legacy, and now that you are the heir, they see you as a threat." Jonas sat down, feeling the weight of it all. He had come for a funeral. Now he was being hunted by people he didn't even know. That night, he couldn't sleep. Lyra brought him tea and sat across from him. She didn't say much, but he could feel her eyes on him, studying him, measuring something. "Why did Varric choose me?" he asked finally. "He could have chosen anyone on this planet." Lyra hesitated, then answered, "Because he trusted you. You were the only human he ever truly called a friend. He said you were brave, loyal, and honest. He believed that one. If he couldn't finish his mission, you would." Jonas leaned forward. "What mission?" Before she could reply, a loud crack echoed from outside. The lights flickered and the alarms rang through the halls. "Stay here," Lyra ordered, grabbing the weapon from earlier and sprinting toward the entrance. Jonas followed her anyway. Crouching low, heart thudding. Through the window he saw shadows moving, 3 masked aliens trying to break into the house. One of them aimed a device at the control panel, but Lyra fired a bright pulse that sent them scattering. They returned fire, blasts of light smashing into the walls. Jonas ducked as glass shattered over his head. With calm focus, Lyra took down one of the attackers. The others retreated into the woods, disappearing into the night. She closed the door again and slumped to the floor, breathing hard. Jonas knelt beside her, helping her up. Her arm was burned, her hair a little singed, but "She was alive, I told you," she said between breaths. "They won't stop, not until they get what they want." "What do they want?" Lyra looked at him, then whispered, Project Elysium. Jonas had never heard those words before, but the way she said them made his skin crawl. There was more to this than he had imagined. Much more. That night, Lyra finally showed him a hidden room behind one of the bookcases. Inside was a small console with a glowing screen. Jonas touched it, and Varick's face appeared. It was a recorded message, one final message left for Jonas, my friend. Varick's voice said, If you're seeing this, I am gone, and that means you are now the key. They will come for you, as they came for me. But remember, trust Lyra, and protect the core. It must never fall into the wrong hands. The message ended, leaving Jonas staring at the screen in silence. He turned to Lyra, whose face was pale. What is the core? She shook her head. Something that should have never been made, and Jonas knew then, this wasn't about friendship or inheritance or even Tyrell traditions. It was about something far bigger, something that could destroy everything. Jonas couldn't sleep. The memory of Varick's message kept playing in his mind. You are now the key and protect the core. What did that mean? What was this core? Why did Varick hide it from everyone, even from his own people? Next morning, Jonas woke up early and went straight to the hidden room again. Lyra followed him, quiet and watchful. She didn't speak until he asked, Is the core a weapon? Lyra lowered her eyes. It's not a weapon in the way you think, but yes, it's powerful. Dangerous if used by the wrong people. Then where is it? Jonas asked. She paused, as if deciding how much to say. It's locked. Away in Varick's private vault. You saw the red door yesterday. Only the heir can open it. But the system hasn't accepted you yet. Then how do I get access? He asked. You must complete the binding, she whispered. Jonas frowned. You mean the marriage ritual? Lyra gave a small nod. Only after the bond is official. Will the estate recognize your command? Until then, you're still an outsider in the system. Jonas sighed and walked away. His mind felt heavy. How had everything become so complicated? He just came to pay respect to a friend. Now he was caught in alien politics, hunted by masked enemies, and expected to marry a woman he barely knew. He went out to the garden to clear his head. The sun on Tyrell was dimmer than Earth's, soft and bluish. The air smelled of flowers and metal, but even the peaceful setting didn't calm him. Then he heard something. A whisper. A faint sound behind the trees. He turned quickly, spotting movement in the shadows. He rushed back into the house and called out, Lyra, we're not alone. She appeared immediately, weapon ready. They moved carefully through the halls, checking each door. Then they saw it, a broken panel near the back of the estate. Someone had tried to force their way in again. They're testing our defenses, Lyra said. Soon they will come in larger numbers. Jonas had enough. I want to see what Varick left behind. I want to understand what's going on. Lyra looked at him for a long moment, then finally nodded. Follow me. She led him to a secret corridor behind the main hall. At the end was a round platform, glowing softly. Stand here, she said. As Jonas stepped on it, a voice echoed, Identity not confirmed. Lyra stepped beside him and placed her hand on a scanner. Override with bondmate code, she whispered. The platform began to lower, taking them deep underground. The walls changed around them, no longer smooth and glowing, but dark and lined with strange carvings. It felt ancient, older than the house above. When the platform stopped, they stepped into a room filled with humming machines. Screens blinked, codes flowed across them. In the center was a locked chamber surrounded by a force field. That, Lyra said, pointing, is the core. Jonas stepped closer. The core looked like a crystal, about the size of a football, but floating in the air, pulsing with light. It wasn't just glowing, it was alive. What does it do? He asked. Lyra hesitated. It contains pure energy, enough to power a world or destroy one. Varick created it as a solution for dying planets. He believed it could bring life to places that were cold and empty, but others wanted it for war. Jonas stared at it. So Varick hid it here and trusted me to protect it. She nodded. He knew they would never stop searching. But as long as the core stays here, Tyrell is safe. Maybe more than just Tyrell. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A loud alarm echoed through the chamber. The force field around the core pulsed. "Red, they found us," Lyra shouted. "Go back up, I'll stay and secure the vault." "No," Jonas said, grabbing her arm. "We go together." But before they could move, a loud explosion shook the walls. Dust fell from above, and the platform behind them sparked and died. They were trapped. From above, footsteps echoed. Voices in a language Jonas didn't understand shouted orders. Lyra handed Jonas a small device. "Press this against your chest," she said quickly. "What is it?" "A defense shield. It will protect you for a few minutes." He obeyed, and the device hummed, forming a faint shimmer around his body. Lyra raised her weapon again and took position behind a console. The attackers arrived. 4 masked aliens. With black armor and electric rifles, they saw Jonas and shouted, "Give us the core." Jonas stepped forward, heart pounding. "No," one of them fired. The blast hit Jonas's shield and bounced off. The force pushed him back, but he stood his ground. Lyra fired back, hitting one attacker in the chest. He fell instantly. The others retreated, shouting something in panic. When silence returned, Lyra walked to Jonas and touched his shoulder gently. "You were brave." "I'm tired of running," he said, breathing hard. "If they want the core, they'll have to go through me." Lyra looked at him, her eyes soft now. "Then you're already more than just an heir." For the first time, Jonas understood. He wasn't just protecting Varric's legacy, he was becoming part of it. The next day, the house was quiet, but the air felt heavy. Jonas walked through the halls thinking about everything. Varric's death, the attacks, the strange glowing core underground, and the message Varric had left him. It was clear now. He was in the middle of something big, something dangerous, and maybe even something that could decide the fate of many worlds. He found Lyra in the garden, kneeling beside a glowing blue flower. She looked tired, shadows under her eyes, but still graceful and calm. When she saw Jonas, she stood up and faced him. "They'll come again," Jonas said. "We both know it." "Yes," she replied quietly. "And next time, they may not just try to steal the core, they may destroy everything to get it." Jonas nodded. "So, what do we do?" Lyra took a deep breath. "We do what Varric planned. You complete the bond ceremony. Once you become my husband, the estate will fully accept your authority. You will have full access to all systems, defenses, and secrets. Even the council won't be able to challenge your position." Jonas looked away, unsure. "This marriage, I didn't come here expecting this. I barely know you." "I understand," Lyra said softly. "But this isn't just about us. It's about protection. It's about survival." Jonas was quiet for a long time. Then he finally said, "Let's do it." Later that evening, the bonding ceremony began. It was simple, yet full of meaning. They stood before a circle of glowing lights, ancient symbols floating around them. Lyra wore a flowing dress that shimmered with silver threads. Her long hair was tied with blue crystal pins. Jonas wore ceremonial robes that Varric once owned. A priest-like figure spoke in Tyrellan language, asking questions that Jonas didn't fully understand. But Lyra guided him gently, whispering the right answers. The moment their hands touched in the final step, the air around them changed. Jonas suddenly felt something, like a pulse through his chest. His eyes widened as memories, Varric's memories, flashed through his mind. Moments of laughter, invention, and fear. Images of the core being created, hidden, protected. He saw the faces of the council, the traitors, the danger ahead. When the light faded, Jonas stumbled back, breathing hard. What just happened?" Lyra looked at him, her eyes full of emotion. "The bond didn't just make us partners, it gave you part of Varric's mind. Now you understand what he feared, what he planned, what he loved." Jonas was speechless. The vision felt real, like he had lived it himself. And among those memories, he had seen Lyra. He had seen how much Varric loved her and how much pain he had hidden. Outside, a few guests clapped politely, others bowed, but not everyone looked pleased. From the edge of the garden, Jonas saw a man in dark robes watching. With cold eyes, he didn't clap, didn't smile, he just turned and walked away into the night. Who was that? Jonas asked. Lyra's expression changed. Counselor Devren, she said. One of Varric's oldest rivals. He never agreed with Varric's research. He wanted the core destroyed or controlled. Jonas didn't like the sound of that. So he's the one sending these masked attackers?
Maybe, Lyra said. But he's clever. He won't get his hands dirty. He uses others, whispers lies, spreads fear. That night, Jonas couldn't sleep again. He walked through the halls of the estate, now fully open to him. Doors that
once rejected him now slid open with a soft chime. He walked into Varric's private lab, untouched since his death. Screens lit up as Jonas stepped in, showing complex symbols, research files, test videos. One video showed Varric standing beside the core, explaining its purpose. Not for power, he said in the recording, but for life, for lost worlds, for the future. Jonas watched silently, feeling the weight of it all. Later, as he returned to the main hall, he found Lyra sitting alone near the fire. She looked small in the large room, her hands folded tightly in her lap. You don't have to be afraid, he said gently. I'm not afraid for myself, she said without looking at him. I'm afraid for you. Varric was strong, powerful, respected, and they still managed to kill him. You don't know their ways yet. Jonas sat beside her. Maybe not. But I know one thing. I'm not leaving. Not until this is finished. She finally looked at him and her voice softened. You remind me of him. You're stubborn, honest, and reckless, Jonas smiled. Then maybe that's why he trusted me. There was silence for a while, just the soft hum of the estate and the crackle of the fire. Then Lyra whispered something that surprised him. I didn't love him at first, you know. Our marriage was arranged like most on Tyrell. But over time, I came to care for him. Deeply, he was kind. He never treated me as property. He listened to me. Jonas nodded. He was a good man. Lyra looked into the fire again. But I never stopped feeling like I was just part of his plan. I wonder now if I'm part of yours too. Jonas didn't answer right away. He didn't know how to. All he knew was that the path ahead was dangerous, but for the first time since arriving on Tyrell, he felt like he belonged, and maybe, just maybe, Lyra did too. The next morning, Jonas and Lyra stood in front of the sealed vault again. This time, as Jonas placed his hand on the scanner, the light blinked green. A soft voice said, "Access granted. Welcome, heir of House Corrin." The heavy doors slid open, revealing a hidden chamber beneath the estate. Cold air rushed out along with a soft humming sound that made the hairs on Jonas's arms stand up. Lyra stepped in first and Jonas followed, both of them silent, alert. Inside, the room was dark, but filled with glowing lines on the walls. They moved like flowing rivers of light. At the center of the chamber stood a round platform, and on it, in a glass-like case, floated a crystal, bright, alive, and pulsing slowly. That's the core, Lyra said quietly. Project Elysium. Jonas stared at it, unable to look away. It didn't feel like just an object. It felt like a living thing. The soft pulses of light moved in rhythm with something, maybe even his own heartbeat. What does it really do? Jonas asked. It creates life, Lyra whispered. Varric designed it to heal dying worlds. It can restore oceans, bring air to dead moons, and restart broken ecosystems. Jonas stepped closer. Then why does everyone want it so badly? Because it can also be twisted, she said. If someone connects it to the wrong tech, it can drain life instead of giving it. It can kill a planet in hours. Jonas looked at her in shock. That's why Varric hid it. Lyra nodded. Yes, he believed only someone with a pure heart could protect it. That's why he chose you. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed above them. The lights flickered. Jonas looked up, then back at Lyra. They're here again, aren't they? She nodded, pulling out her weapon. We need to move the core before they reach this room. Move it? Where? There's a hidden path that leads to the lower mountains, Lyra said. Varric built it in case the estate was attacked, but it hasn't been used in years. Jonas looked at the core, still glowing peacefully. All right, let's do it. Lyra placed her hand on a console, and the case around the core opened slowly. She reached in with both hands and gently lifted it out. As soon as she did, the lights in the room shifted from blue to red. Alarms started beeping. We need to go, now. Jonas led the way as Lyra followed, carefully carrying the core. They exited through a narrow tunnel behind the chamber. The walls were rough, dark, and tight, but the path kept sloping downward, away from the main estate. As they ran, distant, sounds echoed behind them. Footsteps, voices, even weapons charging. Jonas could hear shouts in the Tyrellan language, but he didn't understand them. He didn't need to. He knew what they wanted. They're catching up, he said, breathing hard. There's a door at the end of this path, Lyra said. We just need to reach it. After several minutes of running, they reached a small metal door. Lyra placed the core into a round hole in the wall, and the door opened with a hiss. Beyond it was a cave leading into the misty hills outside the city. But just before they stepped through, a voice rang out from behind them. Stop, or she dies. Jonas turned and saw 3 masked attackers. One of them held a glowing blade, the other 2 had rifles pointed at them. Lyra stepped in front of Jonas, still holding the core tightly. One of the attackers stepped forward. Give us the core and we will spare your lives. Jonas raised his hands. Why do you want it so badly? The council doesn't trust outsiders, the attacker said. Varric defied them. Now his mistake must be corrected. Jonas stepped closer. This isn't a mistake. It's a second chance for the galaxy. You don't care about saving anyone. You just want control. The attacker's eyes narrowed. Then you die with your foolish dream. In one quick motion, Jonas pulled a small flash grenade from his coat, something Lyra had given him the night before. He threw it to the ground, and a bright light exploded through the tunnel. The attackers cried out, blinded. Jonas grabbed Lyra's arm and pulled her through the door. It slammed shut behind them. They ran again, deeper into the rocky passage until they reached a quiet chamber. Safe for now, Lyra placed the core on a stand built into the cave wall. Its light dimmed, resting, protected. Jonas sat down, exhausted, bruised, his heart still racing. I didn't think we'd make it. Lyra sat beside him, still holding her breath. Neither did I. They sat in silence for a moment, watching the core's gentle glow reflect off the stone walls. Then Jonas spoke. Back at the estate, during the bond ceremony, I saw something. Something that felt like memories. Lyra looked at him. Varric's memories. The bond shares more than just rights. It passes part of the person, what they loved, feared, and hoped for. I saw you, Jonas said quietly. I saw how he looked at you. I felt his trust, his pain, and his love. Lyra's eyes softened. And now, Jonas looked into her eyes. Now I understand why he chose me. Not just for the core, but for you. For the first time, Lyra smiled. Not a polite smile, but a real one, warm and sad at the same time. Outside the cave, wind howled through. The hills, the enemy would come again. Jonas knew that, but in this moment they were safe, and Jonas had made a choice. He would protect this world, this woman, and the core, even if it cost him everything. The wind outside the cave grew stronger, bringing a chill with it. Jonas stood at the cave entrance, watching the hills below. Everything was quiet, too quiet. He knew they didn't have much time. The attackers would come again, and this time they would bring more fighters, better weapons, and a clear plan. Behind him, Lyra sat beside the core, her eyes closed. She looked calm, but Jonas could see the worry in her face. She hadn't spoken much since their escape. Maybe she was thinking about Varric, or maybe she was thinking about what would happen next. We can't hide here forever, Jonas finally said. Lyra opened her eyes slowly. I know, but we need a plan. The council will not stop until the core is in their hands. And if they find us before we're ready, Jonas nodded, Then we fight, but we don't fight alone. Varric had allies, right? Lyra stood up, brushing dust from her dress. Yes, some still believe in his vision. They live in the outer cities, far from the Council's reach. If we can reach them, maybe they'll help us. Jonas looked at the glowing core. Then we move at night, carry the core, and head for the outer ridge. Lyra hesitated. It's dangerous to travel with the core exposed. If it's damaged, all of Varric's work will be lost. I'll carry it myself, Jonas said. We'll be careful. That evening, they left the cave and moved through the rocky paths. Lyra guided them with a small light that barely cut through the mist. Jonas kept the core wrapped in a protective cloth, feeling its warmth against his chest as he walked. It was like carrying a living heart. Hours passed and the land grew darker, colder. In the distance, they saw lights, small homes built into the cliffs, a peaceful village hidden away from the central cities. They approached carefully, but as soon as they stepped into the open, they were surrounded. 5 figures jumped from the shadows, holding old rifles and blades. Stop right there, one shouted. Identify yourselves. Lyra stepped forward, hands raised. I am Lyra of House Koran. This is Jonas, heir of Varric. We seek safe passage and support. The guards looked at each other. One lowered his weapon slowly. Lyra, you were declared missing. The council said you fled with stolen technology. She didn't steal anything, Jonas said, stepping forward. We're protecting Varric's legacy. The core is safe, but we're under attack. The men hesitated, then nodded. Come inside, but keep your heads low. They were taken to a small underground meeting hall, where an old alien man waited. His skin was faded blue, his eyes sharp despite age. He stood slowly and walked toward them. You must be the human, he said. Varric told me about you. I'm Heir, one of his oldest friends. Jonas bowed slightly. He trusted you. We need your help. They'll come for us soon. Heir looked at Lyra. Is the core real? She unwrapped it carefully, showing the glowing crystal. Elar's eyes widened. So he really finished it? Yes, Lyra said. And now the council wants to use it for control, not creation. Heir sighed. We'll help you, but be warned. There's a traitor among our ranks. Someone's been feeding information to the council. Jonas tensed. Then we don't have long. That night Jonas couldn't sleep again. He walked outside, looking at the sky. The stars above Tyrell were large and bright. But tonight they felt heavy. Suddenly he heard a soft sound behind him. He turned, but it was too late. Something struck the back of his head and everything went dark. When he woke up, he was tied to a chair in a dark room. His head ached and his vision was blurry. Across from him stood a tall figure, one of the council guards, the same one who had chased them before. You should have stayed out of this, human, the guard said. Give us the location of the core and we'll make this quick. Jonas gritted his teeth. I don't even know where I am. The guard laughed. Lyra was taken too. She's safe. For now. Jonas struggled against the ropes, but they were tight. Then he remembered something. His wrist communicator. It was small, hidden under his sleeve. Maybe still working. He pressed it with his thumb, twice, slowly, hoping the signal would reach someone. Meanwhile, in the hidden village, Lyra was being held in another room. Her captor was a young woman with a sharp voice. Why did you follow Varric? He lied to everyone. He promised peace, but he built a weapon. Lyra answered calmly. The core is not a weapon, it's life, it's hope. The woman hesitated, her voice shaking. But people died because of it, and now they'll come again. More will die. Before she could reply, a loud explosion rocked the room. Dust filled the air, and voices shouted in confusion. Jonas had been rescued. Heir and 2 of his loyal guards had followed the signal. They burst through the door and pulled Jonas out. He grabbed a fallen rifle and joined them as they ran toward the core's hiding place. They found Lyra too, bruised but still strong. She hugged Jonas tightly, her voice shaking. I thought I lost you. Not yet, he whispered. They grabbed the core and escaped into the night again. Heir stayed behind to slow the attackers, shouting, Protect it or we all die for nothing. Jonas and Lyra ran through the woods, the glowing crystal in his arms once again. This time, he wasn't just protecting a memory. He was protecting the future. The sky was still dark as Jonas and Lyra ran through the forest, the glowing core in. Jonas's arms lit the path ahead, but he kept it covered as much as possible, behind trees under his coat. Every sound in the night made them pause, cracking branches, the flap of wings, whispers in the wind, but they didn't stop, they couldn't. Behind them, fire burned in the hidden village. The traitor had led the enemy straight to them. Elar stayed behind to hold them off. And now, Jonas didn't know if his friend was alive or not, but he had no time to turn back. "We need a safe place," Jonas whispered, breathing hard. "Somewhere no one will think to look." "I know one," Lyra said, "but it's far. It will take a full day of walking." "Then we walk," he replied without hesitation. By sunrise, they reached a mountain trail. It led up to a series of caves hidden behind waterfalls. Lyra said Varric had taken her there once years ago, when he wanted to be alone and think. It was a sacred place, untouched by machines, free from scanners and council eyes. Inside the cave, the sound of water echoed gently, and cool mist filled the air. Jonas placed the core on a smooth stone in the center. It pulsed softly, like it was resting, breathing. Lyra sat down beside him, her arms wrapped around her knees. Her eyes were tired but calm. She looked at Jonas and said, "You've come so far. You could have left after the funeral. But you stayed. You fought. Why?" Jonas thought for a moment, then answered, "Because Varric gave me more than his fortune. He gave me purpose, and I care about you, Lyra." Lyra didn't look away. "I cared for Varric deeply, but I never felt this with him. This feeling of standing beside someone, not behind them." They sat in silence, watching the soft light of the core. Suddenly, Jonas's wrist communicator beeped. A message flashed on the tiny screen. It was a warning. Council forces landing in outer region, searching all caves. "They're close," Jonas said, standing up. "We need to move the core again." But Lyra shook her head. "We can't keep running forever. We need to end this." Jonas looked at her. "Then how?" "There's an ancient tradition on Tyrell," Lyra said. "If a citizen challenges the council publicly, they must answer. If we bring the core to the High Temple, where the old laws still hold power, we can show the truth to everyone. The people will see what Varric made, what the council is trying to steal." "They'll try to kill us before we get there," Jonas said. "Maybe," Lyra replied. "But if we reach the temple, they'll have no choice but to face us openly." Jonas looked at the glowing crystal and nodded slowly. "Then we walk into the fire." They wrapped the core again and set off toward the city, keeping to the mountain paths and hidden roads. It took them nearly a full day to reach the edge of the capital. The city lights glowed in the distance like stars on the ground. Tall buildings rose from the surface, and ships hovered in the sky. The High Temple stood at the center of it all, an ancient structure built of stone and light. It was older than the council, older than most on Tyrell could remember. It was the only place where truth still mattered. As they entered the temple gates, guards moved to stop them, but Jonas held the core high, unwrapping it before them. The glow of it froze everyone in place. "I am Jonas of Earth," he shouted, "heir of Varric and protector of the core. I demand a trial of truth before the people." The words echoed through the temple. The old priests looked at one another and nodded slowly. The council had no choice now. They arrived minutes later, angry, dressed in dark robes. Their leader, Councillor Devrin, stepped forward, his face twisted in fake calm. "You dare bring this weapon here?" "This is no weapon," Jonas said firmly. "This is life. You fear it because you can't control it." "You know nothing of our ways," Devrin hissed. "You are an outsider, a thief. I am the heir your own citizen trusted most." Jonas replied, "You will not bury his work in the dark." One of the priests stepped forward, placing his hand on the core. It glowed brighter, and images floated into the air. Memories, recordings, blueprints, all from Varric's mind passed to Jonas through the bond. The truth was now visible to everyone. A young alien child in the crowd pointed. "It's beautiful. Like a star. The crowd began to murmur. Counselor Devrin stepped back, his power slipping. You wanted to destroy hope, Jonas said loudly. But you failed. The priests stepped forward, raising their staffs. The core is protected, now, and so is the heir. The council has no more power over this. Lyra stepped beside Jonas, her hand in his. Her eyes shined, not with fear but with peace. As the sun rose behind the temple, the people cheered. And for the first time, Jonas felt like more than just a visitor on Terrell. He was home, not because of the planet, but because of what he chose to fight for, and who he chose to stand beside.